Okay, good morning, students. We'll start with the lecture number 3. Okay, so in the previous session, we have studied the different methods, that is, working stress method, ultimate load method, and finally, limit state method. Okay, now we're going to see what is the difference between working stress method and limit state method. Okay, so these are the points we're going to see. So working stress method and limit state method. So the first difference, okay, the first difference is this method is based on elastic theory. That is, working stress method is based on elastic theory, means which assumes that concrete and steel, both materials are elastic materials, and the stress strain curve, whatever the stress strain curve is drawn, is linear for both the materials. Okay, so what working stress method assumes? Okay, first of all, this is based on elastic theory, and which assumes that concrete and steel both are elastic material, and stress and strain curve is linear. This is in working stress method. So if you consider the limit state method, so this method is based on actual stress strain curve. Okay, not only at the linear part. So complete stress strain curve will be considered. That is, it is based on the actual stress strain curve of steel and concrete. And for concrete, the stress strain curve is non-linear. See, we have seen that already. Concrete is a brittle material. Okay, the stress strain will not be linear. Okay, so here it is considered stress and strain is linear. Here it is not linear. Okay, it is non-linear curve. In the second point, in working stress method, the factor of safety is applied to the yield stresses to get the permissible stresses. To get the permissible stresses, the factor of safety will be applied to the at yield stresses, not at the final stress. Okay, at yield stress, the factor of safety will be applied, and we're going to get the permissible stresses. Means permissible means allowed. So this much stress is allowed. That is the permissible. But in limit state method, partial safety factors are applied to get the design values of stress, design stresses, what we can say that. So to get the design stresses, what we're going to do, we're going to multiply the partial safety factors. Okay, then in third point, no factor of safety is used for the loads. So for loads, there will be no factor of safety. But in limit state method, design loads are obtained. These are the final loads we're going to consider for the design. Those are called ultimate loads or design loads. So how to get these design loads? Design loads are obtained by multiplying partial safety factors. Okay, so you have to multiply the partial safety factors to the what? Working loads. We know the working loads. So working load multiply by partial safety factors, then we're going to get the design load or ultimate load. Okay, here for loads, no factor safety will be multiplied, but here for working loads, multiplied factor of safety, we're going to get the design loads. This is the ultimate load. Okay, that is another difference. Then fourth difference is in working stress method, exact margin of safety is not known. So in this method, if you design the elements, okay, so we're not going to get the clear picture of what is the margin of safety. But here we're going to get the exact margin of safety is known. That is for limit state. Then fifth difference is the working stress method gives thicker sections, so less economical. This is another point you have to see. So when you design any element, suppose if you design the beam, okay, so the size of the beam will be more if you use this working stress method. The dimensions will be more. If the size will be more, then automatically it will be less economical. So using working stress method, right, the thicker section can be gone. Okay, we're going to get the thicker sections. Then in limit state method, this method is more economical. This is more economical. Why? As it gives thinner sections. Okay, the dimensions will be less. Okay, thin sections are we're going to get, and because of this thin section it is more economical compared to the working stress method. Then the last difference, the working stress method assumes that the actual loads, that is working loads, what you can say that actual loads, permissible stresses and factor of safety are known. So these three things will be known in this method. So it is called as deterministic method. So working stress method is called as deterministic method because we will be knowing working loads, permissible stresses and factor of safety. What about this limit state method? This method is based upon the probabilistic approach, okay, that is not known, which depends upon the actual data and experience, hence it is called as non-deterministic method. So this is working stress method is deterministic method and limit state method is non-deterministic method. So these are the major difference between working stress method and limit state method. So this is the important point you have to remember. In exam also they are going to ask differentiate between working stress method and limit state method. In that case you should be able to write these 6 points. Okay, so next we will move on to the another important aspect of this limit state. Okay, now here onwards whatever the method we are going to consider, this will be limit state only. Okay, so now till now we have seen working stress and ultimate load method, but we will now restrict only to limit state method. Whatever the design we are going to do, that will be based on limit state. Then what is the philosophy of limit state? Okay, so what is why we are using this limit state? As we know, the aim of our design is what? To see that the structure built is safe and it serves the purpose for which it is built. So main aim is whatever the structure we are going to build, it should be safe and it gives the purpose, whatever for which purpose it is constructed, that purpose has to be served. Okay, so that is what you can say that the philosophy of limit state. Okay, then when we are using this limit state method, okay, so there will be different limit states we are going to consider. Again this limit state will be further classified into different limit state. Okay, the various limit states to be considered in the design may be classified as follows. Okay, there will be 3 limit states we are going to be considered. One is limit state of collapse, then second is limit state of serviceability and other limit states. So these are the 3 limit states we are going to be considered, that is limit state of collapse, limit state of serviceability and other limit states. Then what is this limit state of collapse? First one. So a structure is said to be have collapsed if, so when you can say that a structure is collapsed. Okay, so out of these, whenever there is a happening of this thing, then we can say that the structure is collapsed. One is material as one or more sections ruptures. So whatever the materials, the structure made up of, if the material fails, then at one or any other sections, then we can say that the structure is collapsed. If the material fails also, we can say that the structure is collapsed. Second, the buckling takes place. Buckling. So especially if we see the columns, long columns, if the column height is more, normally we classify it as short columns and long columns. So normally the long columns will going to buckle. Buckling means it is nothing but a bending. So when the bending takes place also, that time you can say that the structure is collapsed. Then overturning takes place. Then overturning of the structure takes place. Then also you can say that the structure is collapsed. So if any of these things happens, then we can say that there will be a collapse of structure. Then to overcome these difficulties, we are going to consider the different ultimate states. At the final state, we're going to consider which are tension, compression, flexure, then shear and torsion. Okay, so whenever we are using this limit state, and in limit state collapse, we'll go and design our elements considering these, that is tension, compression, flexure means it is a bending, flexure, shear and torsion. The design should be such that the resistance at every section to above stresses, okay, above stress resultants shall not be less than the appropriate value at that section. So whenever we're going to design, okay, see that whatever the design, our element should resist these stresses, that is tensile stresses, compressive, flexure stresses, shear and torsion stresses. So our design should be such that these stresses should be resisted. Okay, that is, so this is a limit state of collapse. Okay, so in limit state of collapse, we're going to consider these are the different stresses and we're going to design to resist these stresses. Then second limit state we're going to consider, that is limit state of serviceability. Right, what do we mean by serviceability? So whatever the elements or our total structure we're going to build, so that has to be performed safely. Service, it should give proper service to the users, that is called as serviceability. Okay, so again in serviceability, two basic criteria we're going to consider. One is the deflection and even second one is crack width. So these two, deflection as well as the cracks, whatever normally we can see, deflection and cracks are the two major criteria of serviceability. So when you are considering this limit state of serviceability, okay, your design, whatever the design we're going to do, it is the design of whole structure or design of elements. So the design should resist or design should take care of deflection as well as cracks. Means as far as possible, deflection should be within the limits. No doubt, even though if there is a deflection, if it is within the limits, there will be no problem. Okay, so deflection should be within the permissible limit and crack width should be minimum. We're going to see what is that crack width, minimum crack width allowed. Okay, so first is limit state of deflection. So the deflection of the structure under service load condition should be within the acceptable limits. The adverse effect of excessive deflections are, so no doubt there will be deflection, but if the deflection of element is within the permissible limit, there will be no danger. Okay, then what are the effects of this deflection? If the element deflects, what will going to happen? Okay, if the deflection is there, then it creates, okay, a feeling of lack of safety. If there is a deflection, we feel that, suppose if there is a small bending of beam, if the beam bends, okay, no doubt it will not going to suddenly fail, but if it bends, we're going to see there will be, we assume that there is a lack of safety. Then second is aesthetic view is spoiled. When you see the bending of beam, so we say that look is not good. One is safety, we say that there is a lack of safety, and second aesthetic view of that element is spoiled. Then third one, this deflection leads to deformation. When the deflection takes place, then deformation will be there of doors, window frames, then cracking of floors, etc. Okay, these are the associated problems with the deflection. Okay, then fourth is creates a ponding of water on roof slabs. Suppose if the slab bends, if the slab deflects, what happens? There will be chances of water will going to store there. Okay, water storage problem will be there, then leakage problem will going to start. So if the deflection takes place, then these are the problems associated with the deflection. No doubt, if the deflection is within the permissible limit, there will not be any problem. Okay, so this is a limit state of deflection. Then next, another criteria is limit state of cracking. In serviceability only, second we have to consider is limit state of cracking. So normally we see the cracks in the buildings. Okay, the cracks in concrete, especially the concrete, in concrete structures there will be cracking. Okay, the cracks in concrete results in the following adverse effects. If the cracks occurs, what happens? One is, okay, appearance will be there, cracks will going to see. Then second, creates the feeling of lack of safety. Again we see that if there are more cracks, more and more cracks, we feel that the structure is not safe. That is another feeling. Then third one is it creates leakage problems. If there is a cracks, especially if there is a cracks in walls, then slabs, then leakage of water will going to takes place. Then next is reduces the stiffness resulting into excessive deflection. Okay, so when the cracks are formed, then the stiffness will going to be reduced. Okay, then next is creates maintenance problems. If the more and more cracks will, if there develops in the structure or in the elements, then it is very difficult to maintain the building. Okay, so these are the problems associated with the cracking. That is, appearance will be spoiled, then lack of safety will going to feel, then leakage problems will be there. Then another important is leads to corrosion problems. Corrosion, when the leakage starts, then automatically the steel bars, okay, so steel bars will be going to be rusted. When the steel bars rust, then the steel bar will going to lose the strength. So corrosion is a major problem, okay, with the cracks. Okay, then stiffness will be reduced, then maintenance problems will be more. So these are the problems associated with the limit state of cracking. So whenever we are considering the limit state of serviceability, okay, two important criteria we are going to consider, that is limit state of deflection, then limit state of cracking. So however, cracks in concrete are unavoidable. Okay, so in majority of the cases, even though we will going to take major steps, but still there will be cracks will going to develop in the concrete structures. Okay, as why it is as the tensile strength of concrete is very weak. We know concrete is very good in compressive strength, but when the tensile stresses comes, concrete is very weak in tensile stresses, so cracks will going to be developed. Okay, so the cracks width may be kept within the acceptable limits. So what is the how to calculate this crack width, and what is the limitation of crack width we're going to see in the next session. Okay, so right now you have to remember, even though deflection and cracks will going to be there in the building, right, if these two are within the permissible limit, then there will be no problem. Then how to calculate the crack or crack width, how much crack is there, or what is the width of the crack? So there will be two formulas, that is two methods what you can say that. One is empirical method and second one is theoretical method. Okay, so what is this empirical method? By strictly following the bar detailing, okay, rules as specified in the code book. So in IS 456 2000 code book, okay, so how to overcome the problems or how to calculate the crack width using this empirical method we'll going to see. Okay, referring that IS 456 2000 code book. Then second, theoretical method. So the probable crack width is calculated and it will be checked. Okay, the both things we're going to see in the next chapter. Okay, now second is limit state of serviceability, first is limit state of deflect. Okay, then third is other limit state. So structures may be required to withstand the unusual and spatial loads. Okay, we cannot say when the structure is put into use, the other loads may be come into picture which are not considered in the design. Okay, so during the design we are going to consider some loads, but when the structure is put into use, okay, some additional loads will going to be observed, those which are not considered in the design. So such loads are called as spatial loads. Okay, so structures may be required to withstand unusual and spatial loads. For such spatial structures, additional relevant limit states shall be considered. In that case, additional limit states can be considered. Then which are such situations? Some such limit states are vibrations. Suppose if you consider the factory you are designed, so there will be heavy machineries will be there. So in that case, because of operation of machineries, vibrations will be there. That is another problem. Then fire resistance, chemical and environmental actions, then accidental and catastrophic collapse. So these are the additional problems will going to be considered in the special cases. So in other limit states that will be considered. So when you are using the limit state method, okay, so we're going to consider three different limit states. One is limit state of collapse, second is limit state of serviceability, and third is other limit states. So considering all the limit states, your structure should be designed. Then we can say that it will be safe to resist all the loads which are coming onto the structure during its lifespan. So important to remember three different limit state: limit state of collapse, limit state of serviceability, and other limit states. So this is one basic part will going to be complete. That is in the beginning we have started what is the uh, concrete, okay, plain cement concrete, then RCC, why RCC is required. Then we have seen the different different methods to design the structure. One is working stress method, second one is limit state method, ultimate load method, and third one is limit state method. Then we have seen today class, we have seen what is the difference between working stress method and limit state method, and what are the different limit states to be considered in the design of structure or elements. Okay, so please go through this once again. Okay, next class will come up with another interesting session. Okay, so thank you very much for attending this session. Okay, if any clarification is required, you feel free to call me and clarify your doubts. Thank you very much for attending the session. Thank you.